Good evening, everybody, and welcome. Today is another edition of our Thursday Talks, and today our topic is the travel industry and COVID-19. Now, if there was one industry that has been affected and visually affected, it is the travel industry. And today to discuss, we have with us AJ Tandon, Director ICCC and a travel industry professional with 30 years of experience, and somebody has lived in 9 countries. We also have a very prominent panel here with people from the airline industry, from the Hotel Motel Association, as well as the airline booking business. So also we have the president of the ICCC, Pramod Goyal, and I will let AJ do the introductions in detail. But moving on, the travel industry, there's been an impact, as you said, it's devastating. Sector is near total shutdown. There's been cancellation of business conferences. Toronto itself will be down 120,000 business visitors, and barely 5,000 passengers have arrived at Canadian airports from the US, down 99%. Hotel occupancy sits at 10% on average, prompting more than 4,100 closures and 250,000 layoffs across the country. That's 83% of the industry workforce. Now, before we get into the actual event and the actual panel discussion, we just wanted to talk a little bit about the ICCC Small Business Assist Program. In these tough times, the ICCC has started the ICCC Small Business Program. As part of this program, we let small businesses call in the ICCC, and we have experts that are part of the board as well as part of our membership that are volunteered to provide assistance. So you can call in if you're finding anything that you need help with, finance services, technology, HR, any of these things. If you have a question to ask, call in the helpline. You can just send in an email to ICCC@icconline.org under the subject heading Small Business Assist Program, and then one of our volunteers will get in touch with you. We do also have a disclaimer here about today's panel discussion. The information provided to the ICC at this webinar does not constitute legal, tax, or accounting advice and is designed to provide general information relating to business and industry. The views expressed by the panel members are of their own personal opinion and do not necessarily reflect the official position or position of the ICCC. Now, with that out of the way, I will now hand over to my colleague, AJ Tandon. AJ, with his years of experience in the travel industry, I think we're looking forward to a very entertaining and educational session from you. Over to you, AJ.
You're on mute.
You're on mute.
Am I now off mute? Good.
Yes, good.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. First and foremost, thank you, Vijay. You have been a great supporter for everyone's knowledge. He's also one of our key supporter for the sessions that we are having online. He is looking after our international trade and IT, and that makes it perfect combo for us. But before I now move forward with the actual questions, let me introduce who are going to be joining us today. I've got Eric O'Done. He's the Senior Vice President for the Americas for Qatar Airways. And I can tell you about one airline which has been operating even during the COVID crisis and helping tons of Canadians coming back to Canada. I am one of them. I was stranded in India, so thank you very much. Canada thanks you for your services. Canada thanks you dearly for helping us. But Eric also comes from a background of airline experience. He has been with the Cathay Pacific before Qatar and also with the KLM Air France. So he has done multiple roles in the industry, and we look forward to getting his insights on it. Next, joining us is from the Ontario Restaurant, Motel and Hotel Association, one of the most named person in Ontario, Tony Elenis. He has worked for Intercontinental Hotel for many, many years. I had a chance to work with him in hospitality as well, and I know his kind of work is amazing. So we look forward to hearing from him. The third one is Mr. Karan Deswal. I don't think there is any other person like him who has actually looked after all the airports across Canada in his role with the KLM Air France and North America as well. But at the same time, he started recently his CanSky Aviation. Not to forget, he has been an active member of Board of Airlines Representatives, where he's now a Director for Communications and PR. Last but not the least is my own colleague, Pramod Goyal, who will join us towards in between whenever he wants to, but he will have some great questions. He's a person from financial background. He is the president of Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce, but he's also the CEO of Canada Wide Financial Corporation Limited. He's a person who will be asking you most likely where it really hurts us, the accounting, the numbers are the ones which we are. So now moving forward, let's go dive right into the pit that we have. And I will go straight to Eric. Eric, if I may come to you on one of the questions, if you're ready for that, is you are one airline which technically never went to zero. Am I correct on that? Right?
That's correct. Yes. Yeah.
You have never gone down to zero. And knowing that airline industry is the trunk of the entire tourism and travel hospitality business, that's where everything flows to. How do you think the industry is now going to prepare towards, it's one of the hardest questions, for post-COVID era? And in that respect, you can also advise us how Qatar Airways is working towards that as well.
Well, it was a conscious decision. I mean, when the crisis started, a lot of airlines decided that they would not fly. We decided we would. And it was interesting to see that there was actually still a lot of demand. I mean, you talked about repatriation. It's been pretty phenomenal. And it was actually a really good way of operating, because it gave us almost like a mission. You know, we were basically taking people home. You know, we repatriated 18,000 Canadians, and we operated, I think, 21 charters from India, some from Bangladesh. A lot of people traveled as well on our scheduled flight, which is still operating into Montreal. After that, I think what has been important for us was the reaction on the perception of people. I mean, a lot of people did not want to travel, and we didn't want to force them to travel. So we created some specific condition which give people the flexibility. Basically, if they don't want to travel, they can postpone their trip. They can even change their destination, and they will not lose their money. We will, in fact, even better, even if the flight operates and they cannot, they don't want to travel, we will actually put the money of the flight on a voucher with an extra 10% value. We of course give refund when the flight is cancelled. So, and then of course there's the element of duty of care, health and safety, both for our staff and for our passengers. You know, airlines like to talk about how big their seats are and how glamorous their destinations are, and we had to change that very quickly, because that didn't matter anymore. People wanted to see the background. They wanted to see how we clean the aircraft, they wanted to make sure that each blanket was washed, which of course it is. And gradually it obviously escalated into making sure that we incorporated some of their needs into our product. So we've got a big bottle of hand sanitizer in the plane. The whole process on the ground has been re-engineered to make sure we were incorporating social distancing. Now the crew are actually wearing a complete PPE cover, glasses, goggles, gloves, masks. We make mask compulsory on board. Most people bring their own, but we've got some as well on board. So when you talk about the future, it will be really about incorporating all that feedback and basically giving people the confidence that traveling is safe. And I think if you have the right condition of travel, if you have the right processes in place to showcase your high standards of hygiene and your both on your plane and in your hub, then I'm confident that certainly the airline that can do that will recover well.
I have a related question on that, Eric, coming to you right away. On my recent evacuation flight, I saw the ghost airport of Delhi, nearly a ghost airport of Doha. The handling at the airport was happening by the airlines and the handling companies running. This question will also come later to Karan as well in that lines. But my question still lies is that how are they as a whole, as a package, will be preparing for the post-COVID era as together. So you are the airline and the airport together, especially looking into Doha and Delhi that I've taken on Toronto as well. I transited to Montreal. So I saw 4 airports in one trip. And that's where my concern goes, how that is going to be well coordinated in terms of coming out of it. I was concerned. I want to see the cleanliness, but how would you rate on those and what are the procedures that you feel?
Well, I mean, we are lucky in the sense that we operate the airport in Doha, so it's a lot easier for us to make sure that the processes there have been upgraded. I mean, it requires a lot more staff, but the standards of cleanliness, we've got, we've closed all the non-essential facilities in alignment with the WHO guidelines. We've got thermal screening helmets, which look like Robocop in the entire airport. Obviously, everybody wear face masks. We scan people on arrival at boarding. We also have those very cool disinfection robots with ultraviolet lights that scan the whole airport. It's a bit spooky, but I mean, it's very, very efficient. And of course, sanitation of everything, whether it's the all the high contacts area, the baggage belt, the trolley, the baggage, hand sanitizer stations, and social distancing marking on the ground. And we've changed our boarding processes to make sure that that was also applied. After that, for the airport that we do not control, there's a dialogue, obviously, being there. I mean, every airline wants to make sure that the facilities in airports are top-notch, and particularly the social distancing is incorporated into all the processes there. Traditionally, the airports apply the local regulation. I think at that stage, it's become a worldwide area of concern. So I'm confident that that will be applied across the board.
Thank you, Eric. Means I compliment you on that. Like I said, when I was transiting to Doha, I saw them applying the old school way of announcing right as the passengers were coming out and directing them physically into various flights. So it was very organized. So thank you very much for your answer. I'll switch now to the next phase of the travel and the tourism part. The industry that has taken the major hit is the hospitality industry and the hotel. So my question comes to you, Tony, at this point of time. Tony, your experience in the industry over the years has shown you ups and downs in the economy, right, for various factors, right? However, why is this pandemic impact so severe on hospitality? And would there be a preparedness plan for something like this? My question also goes is that there is no adjective that we can give to COVID-19 pandemic that we are facing, but would there be a preparedness plan? This question is to Tony. Elenis, if you can please give me an answer on that. Tony, did we lose you? Hello? Did we lose Tony, guys? Can you confirm that? I don't see him on the line, so I'll switch to the next question on that.
Tony's there. Tony's there. Tony's there.
Okay, Tony, did you get my question, or do you want me to repeat that to you? Hey, Tony. Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Tony. Did you get my question?
Someone is keep muting for some reason.
Okay, so there you go. Now you're good.
I heard the question.
Okay, so please go ahead.
So let me just start by saying that hospitality is about people. It's about people working with people and creating experiences for people. But hospitality is vulnerable to many factors and faces many risks. Historically, the industry has faced wars, revolutions, depressions, and has survived. I have friends and hotel colleagues who face direct assault in life-threatening conditions, working in dangerous global destinations. But overall, in my generation and in my hotel career, we experienced peak years and we experienced downturns, but only for a short period of time. When I started in the business back in the days when I listened to the Beatles and Led Zeppelin, every third car driven on Canada's highways had an American license plate. Business was booming. This is back in the 70s. And in the early 80s, Canada, other countries experienced higher inflation, interest rates, and more underemployment. We've seen downturns in the in the early 80s, in the 90s. I worked in hotels where we had occupancies around 30%. They dipped down to that. But the economy rebounded and the industry bounced back and for a short time. Then 9/11 came and SARS, with many impediments, mostly stemming from US travel. We've seen declines in hotel numbers. And just as we were ready to grow in occupancy and even average rate in the hotel industry, the 2008 financial recession came along, took another bite of the industry, and it took over 15 years for Ontario to meet the numbers that we experienced in the year 2000. But let me tell you, it bounced back. Ontario, Central Canada had exciting numbers. We've seen America's coming back, record-breaking numbers from overseas visitors from China, India, Mexico, others. So good were the hotel numbers that the supply was overtaking demand in 2019 and continuing very strong in 2020. As far as your second question, in preparedness, I'm sure the history books will write about the decisions and the good and the bad about it, from government leaders to economists to industry leaders. But the magnitude of this crisis is no comparison. There's no manual to actually follow. And this is new and unprecedented. Hospitality operations in past downturns are the first to feel and the last to recover. This is no different, and will take much, much longer. The crisis has pushed governments, it has pushed countries and people into severe pressure. It includes international feeder markets, in addition to our domestic impact, Ontario and other provinces. The virus has inflicted us right in the heart of where the hospitality drives, because, as I mentioned earlier, we're about people meeting people, celebrating, having fun, whether they're attending a convention or sitting at the bar, cheering on our Raptors, scoring another basket. We're a fun industry. And our DNA is about travel. Travel to a conference, travel for training, or selling, or visiting a destination. Sports teams travel, they bring fans travel. These are the drivers of our business. Border restrictions, distancing, restrictions on group gatherings directly are punishing the hospitality operations.
Tony, related question to that. The restaurants, which is a very key to any vibrant city, right? So whether it is Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver, Calgary, any one of them, we see that restaurants is a very good way to see how things are moving in the city. Now that the major lockdowns or home delivery pickups, how are the restaurants in specific are coping up with this? What kind of mechanism is there for them to come out of it?
Well, restaurants were the first business.
Tony, sorry, including the mom and pop shops, because there are some chain restaurants and then mom and pop shops as well.
Right. Well, the restaurants were the first restaurants in Ontario anyway to be mandated to close before anyone else. We're talking about a razor thin margin industry to begin with.
Exactly.
And we have, yes, I mean, the average profit in Ontario for the restaurant industry is 3.2. If you take all the big players out, you're talking about 1 or 2% profit for mom and pop and small operators. And it's tough as it was. Never mind now. I recently chaired a ministerial sub-panel on Ontario's food service sector. It's about the recovery and recommendations to government about opening restaurants again. Well, no doubt the biggest obstacle will be building consumer trust. There has been such a good job done by government and everyone else, and rightfully it should have been, to scare the customer, to scare the consumer. Now, hospitality leaders need to adapt, and they, along with their employees, embrace the new ways of service. It's going to be different. Hospitality leaders need to reassure their guests that they are taking the proper safety measures. Just like my colleague mentioned about airline travel. we really seriously need to act upon cleaning and sanitation procedures. Building trust with employees and trust with our guests, both are equally important. So you might ask, how do we go about doing it? Well, it's really common sense. Health and safety practices must guide the day-to-day operation, and it needs to be there. We need to initiate touchless and distancing practices like never before. On the contrary, we embraced those practices before being the hospitality industry. But the little things like providing signage to direct folks, grocery stores are doing it well. Consider replacing chalkboards with digital signage. Print disposable menus or placemats and throw them away. Or better yet, transition to mobile web-based menus, just like the electronic key, the automatic check-in that you're not even going to visit the front desk in a little while. It's going to grow. Provide condiments in single-use disposable packages or individual ramekin dishes to avoid bottles and shakers, anything that the customer and the other employees would touch more and more. These are only a few of the ideas. We are actually rolling out a new guide that is made up of the government guidelines and the other jurisdictions that have already released it across North America, including the US, and you can access it through ORMA's website. We feel that the guide will be complete and will be informative to help individual owners. It's free. There are resource pages that will be under development to find PP&E, talking about financial thinking and reopening. You have to think about some of the rules that the government might mandate, like 50% capacity, as is done in other jurisdictions. How much money can you make in that slim margin industry that was slim to begin with? And you have to look at break-even points. You have to look at, I might be able to open it. Now, the other school of thought, the industry needs to open up. We are ready. And we need to slowly progress to create that trust slowly, and the consumer and the customer base will grow. It is important to convey transparency. It is important to communicate to employees and to your guests, your customers. At the end of the day, there'll be more loyalty because of that, because this is now a close community that we're all in.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. That was very detailed. I saw you touch some of the guidelines, so I thank you. I'll come back to you on that. My next phase goes back to where everything happens and starts, is the airports and how that happens. So I'll bring Karan on that discussion. Karan, means you have had experience working at the airport. Post 9/11, we have seen major changes coming at the airports for security. Now, I have one question. Even if and when vaccine is found, airports will have to become more efficient and process passengers faster. So in that regard, I have a question. How post-COVID-19 airport authorities and airlines will ensure traveling will continue to be safer and the process to be seamless? Because nobody wants to wait in lines. That's another area, sort of a concern for every traveler.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Karan, you're logged in two things. So can you just mute one?
Yeah.
Only go on the phone then.
Okay.
Go ahead, Karan. Karan is now mute on the main phone, on the video chat. Are you connected on the phone, Karan? Hello? I think we lost Karan on that one. He's logged on to two areas. Karan, I will have to come back to you. Due to time constraint, I'll come back to you immediately after that. I'll go back to Eric in this question. Vijay, if you can send a message to Karan on that regard quickly, and we will come back to on this question. Now, Eric, the new normal for airlines operating post-COVID would be, in my opinion, the mirror to the world of travel, right? So how you believe that the airlines can take measures to win the confidence of the passenger? I know Tony touched that subject. How do airlines win the confidence of the passengers back? How safety and hygiene will become the top factor, and what measures airlines can take at the airport, let's say including Qatar Airways, in terms of social distancing and how the process will be running? Please, your opinion and take on that.
Okay. Well, I think there's already a lot of adaptation since the crisis started. As I said before, at first it was about hand sanitizer, but now it's become just a lot more serious. I mean, social distancing can be an airport process, for which we'll have to work in close collaboration with the airport authorities. But it's also about the product itself. I mean, we're lucky our business class product is definitely, and not being biased, the most social distancing product there is. I mean, it's a fully enclosed suite, so people can actually literally be totally independent and protected. We amended the product to make sure there was less interaction with the cabin crew, but of course they're always available. Whilst in the past we were trying to be very present by bringing items one by one, now we actually make sure we change the service so that it's actually quicker and there's basically less interaction. So I think that's essential. There's been a lot of communication from most airlines, I would say, on basically the importance of a modern fleet. We're lucky our average age is 5 years, so the more modern the aircraft, the better the air filtration is on board. And then there's all the measures taken, all the communication on, as I said, the cleaning, the behind the scene element. I do hope that people will take into account all the efforts that are made into integrating social distancing and the high standard level of hygiene when they choose an airline, because surely that should be a major part in the decision making process.
A quick question back on that, Eric, is that you mentioned about business class, and I've seen that as well, that you can have sort of partition in between to create a suite. Not everybody gets to do that. Now, question to you lies on that is, in economy class, the seats are so close. How the social distancing on international sector, domestic sector, trans-border sector in the long run will run for most of the airlines? Will there be a plexiglass coming in between each seat to make sure that you don't have that? Similar to, or long back when British Airways used to have these sort of, the Japanese fan style of curtains coming in between passenger seats. Now, will that be a trend coming in economy class? That's where the bulk travels. How will that change to incorporate social distancing till such time that we have vaccine? We don't know the time frame of that. So that's, both the questions are relating to your product, but general as airlines, what should be the criteria for economy class passengers?
What you mentioned about, remember in our business class, the seat is a complete suite which is totally closed. It's not just having a partition between one and the other. It's literally complete seclusion, which is kind of different. In economy, it's hard to tell. I mean, at the moment, social distancing is not difficult to happen because the flights are not very full. So at that stage,
we don't want that. We want them to be filled up fast.
Sure.
So,
what's important is when we can, we certainly should encourage it, and we certainly do. After that, it's too early to talk about plexiglass screens and so on. I mean, there's a lot of speculations about that. I mean, airline representative have mentioned the cost element of blocking the middle seats. Again, sometimes it's more about the communication, really. Is is sitting next to someone presenting that much risk. We know it's transmitted primarily through saliva. So in that respect, air filtration, having access to restrooms, having hand sanitizers on board, all that should, in some ways, is a much more important element than having someone sitting next to each other. Wearing the mask is essential as well. So, all those are already in place. And as I said, at the moment, the middle seat is de facto available. But how it will change completely in the future remains to be seen. It's too early.
No, I thank you for that. Like I said, we hope that we get full flights, and we hope that center seat leaving vacant will result in higher fares, we believe. But we hope that things will change on that. I think Karan is back online, so I'll switch back to Karan. Karan, I'll repeat. Are you with us now? Hi, Karan. Karan, are you back with us online? Because we cannot hear you yet.
Can you hear me?
Oh, perfect. Let's go with the question again. What I asked you in the past, how post-COVID-19 airport authorities and airlines will ensure traveling will be continuing to be a safer and the process is seamless.
Well, AJ, we are not talking about one particular airline. I represent Board of Airline, represent Canada, and aviation is a huge industry. Aviation drives 2.7 trillion.
Karan, there is a lot of echo, so you have two systems on at the same time. Could you close one of your systems? You are logged in from two, either a phone and this. Can you just log in from one, please?
Let me see this one. What is on? Is it better now? No. All right, let me see.
Apologize, everyone.
No. Let me see here. Just a moment. Yeah, just a moment.
Can you mute? There is still a lot of echoes going on at the back.
Karan, can you try it now? Can you try now, please?
Just a moment. Close that back. Okay. Are you better? Can you hear me?
Please go ahead.
Okay. What I was trying to say here, first of all, I know we're talking about one particular airline, or we are talking about one particular region. The very first thing I have to say, aviation industry, and I think I heard Tony, and all those industries are interrelated. They are not just running on their own. Tourism, or hospitality, the airports, and the airlines. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. So, first of all, I think you know that aviation drives almost 2.7 trillion of GDP in the world, and it employs about 65 million people. So, consider this. I think we cannot just be talking, first of all, for one airline or one country. Sometimes I think, okay, well, what we need to talk is general. What IATA has recommended, also not only IATA, but also ESA from European, and that's European Aviation Safety Agency. They also recommended, and those guidelines for the restart are almost identical. Now, talking about what are we going to do? Our focus at this time, the very basic thing I tell you, as from being from the airport, do you have the customer's confidence yet? It's very, very important that we need the confidence to get the industry running again, to get whether it's a hotel, whether it's an aviation, airport, or the customers, we need customers to be back. What are we going to do? We're going to show them really that we got to have an approach of kind of multi-layered biosecurity measures to protect health and safety. And this is very, very important for customers. Because if they feel comfortable, if they feel that, okay, they're safe, I'm sure that you will have the passengers starting to book and starting to travel. I mean, I can tell you, I mean, I know some of the airlines now, they're coming from Europe with 45 passengers. The passengers are not comfortable to travel. So what are we going to do first thing? The very first thing is, of course, like I said, the biosecurity measures. I mean, that's very, very important. And those measures have to be applied in different areas, starting from pre-flight to check-in to departure airport, airport processes, boarding, in-flight, airport arrivals, border and customs, and in transit. They need to be applied where customer feels completely safe. Completely safe. I mean, so of course, I mean, the usual recommendations about social distancing. Well, and then you talk about the mask, you talk about, going through a sanitized tunnel, touchless, operation. There are multiple things you can do. But you know what is most important also, besides the customer confidence, is the money. It's the money. I mean,
True.
Everybody's talking about, okay, we're going to take off tomorrow. We're going to take off tomorrow, but where is the money? How much has been lost? You know, and at this time, we ask airports to help us, but realizing airports also don't have income. When the airlines don't fly, they have no rates and charges. They have no landing charges. They have no non-aeronautical income. What do you expect from the airport? Okay. Then the next step is the government. Government has to step in, now whether it's Canada or whether it's somewhere else. And I've heard that like in France, the government stepped in with the big package. And in many countries they do that. In Canada, unfortunately, the government is only sucking money from the airline industry. It's a cash cow. And really is a cash cow. They introduced this ground rent, I mean, almost in '94, which was almost $150 million a year from the airport. I mean, and there are 26 national airports which are covered under the lease. So the government has to let this money go. They cannot collect 150 million from the airport anymore.
Karan, I know we went a little bit off a subject into government funding. I'll bring it back to the airport part again. Means yesterday, our Transport Canada mandated that wearing the masks at all times while they are at the airport will be mandatory, right? That's one thing they mandated yesterday. What they also added was checking the temperature of everyone to be 37.6.
Yeah, correct.
Let me finish on that. So in case the temperature is higher than that, they said that they might be requiring medical clearance. Now that means my temperature goes up every time my wife walks into the room. So if she's with me, my temperature will be very high. The question still lies is a person with a relatively position where he's traveling and he is at the edge. People will be scared on that part. So now question to you on that regard. The mandates are coming from Transport Canada. Similarly, US means FAA will be coming out with their mandates. IATA will be coming out with their mandates. Will there be one mandates specified by IATA with all the countries to say these are basics that we need moving forward? So that my question to you coming on that is our nation must fly back again. And that's the idea. Means flying nation is very important. How do you think that can be organized as from the government of Canada and means Transport Canada to make sure that is streamlined with every airline that is flying into Canada, whether they follow those suits?
I fully understand this thing, and IATA has already come out with their temporary multi-layered biosecurity measures to protect safety at the airports. And you know one thing, and that I mentioned to you the different areas. For example, when it comes to pre-flight, the flight, and what do you do in a pre-flight? I mean, what they want is all electric form. The government collects information through the internet. Then you have a check-in. You have the bag tag, boarding passes, personal data. What we are looking for is a touchless as much as possible here. So you could also have RFID bag tag, where there's no paper or check-in at home. Okay, so this is something for the check-in. For departure control, the terminal access should be minimized. It should not be, because otherwise you can't have social distancing when you have the terminal open for the whole world. You have one person going and people coming to see him out. So that thing has to be controlled. And that's a recommendation of IATA, by the way. Okay, and temperature screening at entry points. Entry points. And I'm talking about entry points means the airport entry points, not inside. Okay, physical distancing aligned with local rules. Maybe some country has different rules, but again, we follow the local rules for the social distancing. And mask or PPE for passengers, that is very important because they need to be comfortable to handle the customers, and customers should be also comfortable dealing with them. And then touch points, sanitization. You are going to the kiosk, you are touching them. Okay? Sanitization of those kiosks and the touch points. It's very important. Departure points. So what I'm trying to say here is that come to boarding, for example, we need to have more orderly boarding, okay, and have the social distancing. Then airports and governments will need to help facilitate the boarding process. You cannot have, okay, they have to have some control. You cannot just say, okay, like we used to do before. You have a social distancing, they need to have a mask, they need to have it, and the social distancing, they need to be segregated. And more, what do you need more on the boarding? More self-scanning and biometric procedures to minimize the interactions.
Thank you, Karan, very much on that. Means we look forward. Means we know the airports will be changing for the better. I mean, a lot of people are talking of AI using and having temperature scanning. Before we move forward, Vijay, if you can already request the person who's coordinating the back end. Unfortunately, with the a little bit of technical difficulties, can we add already 12 to 13 minutes into the session, please? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So I come back now to Eric. One of the major questions running right now is people have looked into how the things have changed. External events have majorly impacted the airline industry, and we have all seen that. I was not there during the World War I, World War II, but World War I, World War II more were, I would say, areas regional based. So the airlines got affected, and the airlines were not even that big. SARS impacted to a certain extent. 9/11 impacted for a certain period of time. This is the longest that we have ever seen. The airlines and the tourism travel, the world has come to a standstill. Now, asking you the question is, coming back to the start where I said, if the airlines are the trunk to the entire travel and trade and hospitality industry, when do you see the new normal for the airline industry to come in? Second question is, how do you see, since we have the loss of Q1, Q2, and probably Q3, and we don't know about the Q4. So 2020 could be a write-off. What kind of financial implication will happen to the aviation industry? How long you predict in your crystal ball to come back to the normal? And we look forward to your answer on that. It's a loaded one, but I've kept the last one for the best. So Eric, means your views will be really valuable here.
Well, I think the most important stuff is to actually have flights operating, and that will automatically, generate travel. I mean, at the moment we fly to 30 destinations. By the end of May, we'll be at 52. By the end of June, we'll be at 80. So every time a country reopens, it's an opportunity. And we've seen actually, as some countries have started reopening or allowing flights or even charters, you see a spike in booking when that happens. So there are definitely people out there who want to travel, whether they want to go home or whether they want to go, as in going back home, or they want to go and see their family, their friends. So when would be the new normal? I mean, it's impossible. It's impossible to say. I think that I've seen a lot of airlines. I mean, we certainly have confidence in the future, and that's why we're introducing flights, and hopefully that will answer people's need. On the financial implication, yes, of course, it's massive. I mean, particularly for Q2 so far. When will it get better? I don't actually have a crystal ball. And like you, I wasn't around in World War II, World War I, World War II. I take comfort in the fact that I see a change in the narrative. Certainly in North America at the moment, I see people talking about other topics than just the virus, and I think that's actually probably much needed. So I think a lot of people are looking forward to going back to work and being able to
Pros on that.
That's really as far as I can go in terms of an exact date as to when things will get better. I hope it'll be better soon. Personally, I feel it's going to be sooner than we thought, and but it's an opinion.
No, I fully agree with you on that. Thank you, Eric. Those were, like I said, we all want things to get better. I personally believe that we will see the return. With my experience in the airline business, we will see that it will come in phases. So depending on who are the adventurous, they will come first, and so on and so forth. And the corporate will finally join in, and that's when the cream starts to come in. So it'll take a long time. And I personally have thoughts, and I believe the airlines will be the forefront to show how the way is paved for everyone else. So thank you very much. I know, Pramod, you're waiting. I've got just a couple of questions to wrap up before you come out with your hard talk questions to everyone. I have the next question coming up back to Tony. Tony, now the government has going to be coming out or has not yet come out with guidelines for social distancing, hygiene, and overall operations for the hotels and restaurants yet. So what is the role of your organization when it comes to conveying those messages to the industry? How to implement them? Will there be policing done on that? How do you foresee? So we have a little short time right now, but I respect your quick response to see how that new normal will be for the restaurants and the hotels after getting the government guidelines. Do we have Tony? Tony? Tony, are you there? Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Well, thus far, government has one metric, and that is the 2 meter or 6 feet measurement on distancing. All the other recommendations, and I will call them recommendations, are there, and they're more common sense to make sure that you properly clean and sanitize your place. And again, it goes back to touchless and distancing practices. We have, as I mentioned earlier, we are sending out a guide. It just went out about an hour ago to the industry to follow those guidelines plus more. I think what's going to be different, there are essential guidelines that everybody's going to follow, but those, because of the competitive edge we all have in this industry, are going to be some desirable ones, some better ones, and those will be differentiating themselves from the competition, and that is more trust for the customer. For example, checking temperature for employees. Not everybody's going to go do it, but those that do it, make sure you communicate to the consumer, because that means more business for you.
You're basically telling us all the restaurants, all the hotels who are still in touch with their customers and keeping them informed are the ones who probably will be the winners when time comes, right?
Absolutely, and be transparent. Transparency will gain you loyalty.
That's perfect. So thank you. That was, I think, short and sweet answer on that. The next question I have, which can be going both to Karan as well as Eric, this is something which I always say, means it is going to be expensive to fly. Ultimately, as the airports will be following social distancing, the airline on board will be following social distancing, which means the fares have to be impacted at that point of time. So how do you foresee that the airlines can get a jump start in the travel sector, which I always call it, if the airlines start, they can bring the entire travel and tourism back on track. And that's what I want to ask you is how either one of you can answer, or you both can give your 1 minute input on that. How do you expect that to be in the new normal with your expenses going down? And Karan, for you, if you are giving the answer as a representative of Board of Airline representative, the international airlines are not in the bailout package for Canada, but are you looking for any reductions in your costs with the airport operations coming in? And that goes to you as well. For Qatar Airways, when you land here, you pay a certain cost. Do you expect any rebates from Canada to continue to operate in Canada so that we don't lose jobs if you pull out for any reason or any airline pulls out from Canada? So this is to both of you, and you both can just start as you. Who's starting first? Take your pick.
Yeah, can you hear me, Ajay?
Yes, go ahead.
Let me tell you here, first of all, the government of Canada has not really announced a package. At the same time, what they've done is like they have waived the ground rents for 21 airports for this year. The ground rent, which used to be almost $150 million for Toronto Airport, that has been waived. Okay, with the results, well, the airports are giving concessions to the carriers. They are reducing their rent. They're not charging, they're not increasing their rates and charges. But the one major thing which is here, which you must hear that, is the fuel tax. And I think we are lobbying for that, because we are paying $100 million at Pearson Airport as a fuel tax from the Ontario government. This is the only government charging fuel tax. There's no other government charging fuel tax. I'm talking about the provincial government. No BC and no Alberta, nothing Quebec. Ontario is charging 6.7 cents a litre.
Karan, I'm sorry, I'm going to cut you there. I just mean I understand they're charging, so I can't go after the provincial government. My question to still you two is, are you looking for any rebates from the government?
We need a rebate. They should waive this tax. This will help. Okay, like the government, $150 million they're waiving for this year, and airport authority has requested for the next year. This is all the help to the airlines to get it, get started. I mean, if they are paying so much money, there is no way, I think they are suffering. Even we are suffering before, but I'm talking about especially now, it's very difficult. And I think everybody has to chip in. The government has to come up with a package in Canada. They don't have a real good package in Canada.
Well, Eric, your points, I think I've opened a new Pandora box, because I have a financial guru sitting with us, which is Pramod. I've opened up a new can of worms, and I'm sure he'll ask you some on those. But Eric, what's your take on that as an international carrier coming to Canada? Are you looking for any help from Canada when you're operating into Montreal, for example, and hopefully Toronto sometime?
These are conversations we're having with airports, so I'm not going to comment on that. But I think your point on the pricing is an interesting one. I don't think there is a particular. There's two things. One of it is, at the moment, even if the pricing is irrelevant, people are about consumer trust and about transparency. So we have pricing in place, and we haven't got a mandate to increase it particularly. But what we've done is to make sure that people, when they buy the ticket, they also buy flexibility with it, which in the past was not there. If you bought a ticket at a low price, you had very strict conditions. With our fares on Qatar Airways, you can travel with confidence, and you can change the date, and you can change the routing, you can change the destination, and you don't lose money. So that's really what matters at the moment. The pricing will always evolve.
I think that's exactly what I was looking for, is till the time the customers don't have a confidence in flying.
For airlines which are suffering.
Sorry, Karan, you were saying something.
Airlines coming to Canada, they are really suffering. $150 million our airlines are paying to the government. I mean, this is the money. We need some help. It's like some kind of package from the government to Air Canada, for example, or some reduction in the ground rent to the airport so that we don't pay that. Anything airport pays, in turn, we are paying that. Airlines are paying that. So this,
I agree with you on that, Karan.
Customer confidence, besides all other actions we are going to take, we also need to be able to fly. We should have the financial standing to fly. We should have the cash. Otherwise, we can fly. Look at Canada. Canada has grounded everything. Why?
Thank you, Karan. I mean, like I said, so I mean, it's very important. So I thank all of you for amazing input on this. I know this we can continue for the next few hours to discuss because there's a lot to discuss. We will be having series of these discussion and sessions. And my final take on that is that tough times don't last, but tough businesses do. And tourism and travel has been there from the start of this mankind. So we will be coming out of it stronger, swifter, healthier out of it. So I hope and wish everyone. So let me now take you back to the person who is the president of our chamber. And yes, he is the financial guru for us. So he will have some questions out of his box. So please welcome to the Hard Talk with Pramod. Please take it away. And I'll come back later.
Thank you, Vijay. I think you built so much of fear psychosis there. No, I'm not going to be hard on anybody. So I also welcome all those who are together with us this afternoon, having joined us through Facebook or directly. Good afternoon, gentlemen. So I think I heard from the esteemed panelist I heard from Eric, from Tony, about building consumer confidence to be back on track to get back to the new normal, as we would have now started saying. This question is specifically for Eric. I think we talked about maintaining social distancing and all the precautions that are being taken by airlines and by the airport authorities. Recently, we've also seen in the news, and I've seen certain videos circulating on the social media where airlines that are operating right now, whether charter flights or commercial flights, they are not maintaining that social distancing as we hear is mandated within the aircraft, especially in the economy class. And what I've also heard firsthand is all these precautions are taken until the passengers get inside the aircraft. Once inside the aircraft, I mean, there is no social distancing, there's no demarcation. Everybody is sitting like a normal economy class. So is that true? And what's your take on it? I mean, do you see actually this happening on the ground?
Sorry. Yes, I know what you mean. So I think on the ground, it's definitely essential to have it, and it's certainly easier to implement. When you mentioned those charters, I mean, the difficulty with the charter is you basically sell the entire aircraft. So after that, you don't really control how many people get on board. So, but we're going back to the point I made earlier on, which something I strongly believe in, which is new fleet, high filtration, wearing masks, providing antibacterial gel, standards of cleaning, maximum utilization of in-flight entertainment and screen. That is essential. The idea that the future of the aviation will only be 2 seats out of 3 utilized is I'm not sure if it's realistic.
Means I can add on that for a moment, Pramod, on that. I traveled on one of these flights, so I'll support on that to Eric, and I'm an airline person from the past. Once the aircraft goes on a wet lease, this was a wet leased aircraft, which means with the crew and the aircraft. given to the Canadian High Commission. Canadian High Commission was the one which was doing the manifest. For those, I was closely working with them as well. The manifest was completely done. No travel agent was doing the manifest. They were not even allowed to issue the tickets till such time that the Canadian High Commission has confirmed how many passengers are going on board. What I did see was that everybody was wearing a mask on board. Some of the passengers were even wearing a PPE kit on the aircraft. It's their own personal. Everybody's temperature was checked before we boarded the aircraft. And I felt a little comfortable that, yes, I can. So in support of any charter aircrafts that are coming in, whether it was Air India, Qatar Airways, or KLM, or any other airline which is operating from different parts of the world, including Ethiopian as well now, they are all being filled up by the Canadian High Commission or the embassies abroad. That's my experience and intake and knowledge on that right now. Eric, anything?
No, that's fine. I mean, it could be irrespective of who is controlling. My question was not to put any finger on anybody. The question was, if we are looking at mandating something and then we're trying to build consumer confidence to be able to travel and be fearless about getting back to normal business, then I think these things would help if we can relate that yes, the airlines is taking all the precautions. I mean, as you said, these kind of details maybe an ordinary person may not have out there. So it's just the objective perception that consumers would have. But again, that's fine. I mean, I understand how things work. Now, moving on, I heard your discussion with Karan with regard to the airport authorities and the impact, the severe impact that airport authorities are going across. I mean, globally, I think, I mean, not just Canada alone, because of almost the operations being shut down or reduced to 5% or 10%, and passenger traffic having gone down considerably. And I would say, I mean, besides seeking government funding, of course, that is where it would end. Uh, Similarly, I'm just thinking about all other vendors who operate out of the airport premises, whether it is food vendors or other retailers, and I'm sure their fixed cost is much higher than any similar retailer outside the airport. So, are they being considered by the airport authorities in terms of supporting them while the airports are closed or operating under capacity? So is there something from the government or from the airport authorities?
Well, what government has done for the airport authority, that is $150 million for the airport authority, they were paying to the government in tax. For this year, complete year, the government is not charging. They have paid these tax to $150 million, with a pretty big relief for year. Besides that, when it comes to the non-aeronautical income, which is vendors, most of the vendors at the airport, they are on, they're not paying directly, they are on commission basis. I don't know. They pay percentage of their income to the airport. So although, I mean, they're definitely suffering because they're not making enough money, but also they're not paying.
Okay.
That's how the airport works. So, and second thing is, I brought up a point because at this time, I know we need customer confidence first. And all what we're talking about, social distancing, or we're talking about masks, or we're talking about touching the kiosks, they are all part of biosecurity measures. Biosecurity measures cover all these areas. That's why I said, because that's, and they have been recommended by IATA and also by the European agency, and they are identical. But this time, once we start taking those measures, the customer will start seeing and they'll have confidence that we are safe. Also, a lot of people think, well, if I may say, that inside the aeroplane, we are all breathing, there are 500 people breathing. You know what I mean? I mean, how it must be, maybe the thing is not, air is not clean, but I can tell you, I mean, the customers have to know this, of course. Not everybody knows it, that the air inside the aeroplane is much better there than outside, because there are HEPA filters. They filter up to 99.9%, and the air is taken from outside. So there's a substitution and filtering of the air. So is healthy. And we have to take all sanitizing the seats, of course, and sanitizing the aisles, the galleys, and the labs, and everything. Those things have to be done. But when I say one word, the biosecurity measures, the list is part of the biosecurity measures. In flight, biosecurity measures departure, biosecurity measures arrival. So they are all covered under that. And identical measures have been recommended by European agencies and also by IATA. But we are also suffering because some of the governments, they have to do every dollar counts for the airline to get airborne. We have been imposed by $100 million fuel tax by the government of Ontario. And you should know that this is all, who's paying it? The customers are paying. You are paying for this. You don't know that. That's all. Okay? $100 million that no other state in Canada is charging, Ontario is charging. I think it's about time they should pay it. So we are working on that as the Canadian, the Board of Airlines Canada. We are working on these things. We are trying. IATA is also pushing for these things.
Sure.
But we are taking biosecurity measure, which covers all those things, what has been said, what has been discussed, but also we are concerned that we need funds and we need waivers from the government, waivers from the airport authorities, so that we are we can operate. It may not be cost effective, maybe losing money a little bit, but again, I think we can start operating. Otherwise, you can otherwise go bankrupt. How many airlines have already gone bankrupt? You know that. And in future, who knows it? Maybe 3 years or 4 years before we are back on track.
No, for sure. I think point well taken. I mean, almost every industry is getting impacted, and especially, but as we discussed, I mean, airline or the travel industry, of course, is one of the biggest hit industries, and I'm sure the governments are into.
They are hand in hand. I tell you one thing: the hospitality industry, or the tourism industry, and the airline industry, they work hand in hand.
Yeah.
No flight, you have no tourists coming here, no passengers coming here. Well, there's no occupancy in the hotel. Maybe
Sure.
5% or 10%. These are some of the things which are very, very important, and it is about time, at least in Canada, government has to come to rescue. Also, the provincial governments have to come to rescue.
Right. Thank you, Karan. I think we have to be conscious of the time, but just one final small quick question to Tony. As I would see, the hotel and motor industry is capital intensive. I mean, the properties, the pricing is pretty high. And now with the volume being so low, or almost like some of them are literally shut down, and looking at the pace at which things are coming back and the anticipated timeline of the more traffic to come in or more operations to resume, I think it'll be hard on the operators to carry the substantial financial burden that is there for them in terms of mortgages or fixed costs of operating these properties. So I'm sure in the shorter run, it might have a precipitating effect on the overall market of these properties or these businesses. So, is there anything that you see being done by especially lending institutions or the hotel chains or groups, and especially when we talk about organized sector? Of course, the mom and pop shops or individual operators would have to fend for themselves. But do you see any bigger chains or operators coming in to the rescue of these individual franchisees or players?
Well, there is no doubt that in this new landscape of ours, there will be record-breaking transactions as we move forward, and it will be by many. And those that have the cash, a year from now, once we see a medical breakthrough, might be much richer than what they are now, real estate alone. But now, today, it's about slimming down. It's about cutting your overhead. Doesn't matter if you're small or large. and just a totally different way of operating like we've never done before. We see signs of excitement. We've seen, the southern states, because they have warmer weather, they're starting to increase occupancy in the states. We've seen some brands advertising up in North Alberta and British Columbia resorts, and they're starting to see numbers come through in occupancy bookings. Right now, we're in cold weather, yeah. I think there's going to be excitement as the summer comes, and I think we'll be surprised. But as has been said by everyone here, it's a must that we operate the hotels in a different way when it comes to cleaning, when it comes to sanitation and safety practices, and again, convey this to the consumer. Transactions will be there. It always is there in this industry. And I feel very sad that the independent restaurant will not be able to pay the rent if a breakthrough doesn't come in the next 2 or 3 months. So I'm seeing big numbers in that sector really looking bad.
Thank you, Tony, for the answers. Thank you, everyone. And I think I'll revert back to Vijay to carry on the proceedings, because I think we've already run out of time. So
Yes,
thank you.
we're over time, but we have a couple of questions. So the first question is to Eric. Eric, question to you. This is mostly airlines that own big aircraft, right, are going to be shelving or stopping flying some of the large aircraft. Is Qatar Airways also looking at, is this the end of the Airbus 380 and the Boeing 747s? What is your take on that?
We don't have any Boeing 747 anymore. We only have 10 A380. So for us, we have a very diverse fleet that allows us to actually serve each market with the capacity it requires. But certainly the news seems to be full of airline retiring their A380s.
Okay. So are you going to retire your 380s as well?
We haven't announced we're retiring the A380s, no.
No, I'm just saying, is it be different for all airlines, or do you think that as the era of the big airplane, is that over? I think that's a question. Is it the era of the big airplane, is that over?
Well, I'm not sure it is. I mean, we operate a lot of ultra long haul. I mean, 14, 16-hour flights. You want, an aircraft which is big enough. So, I mean, for me, what matters is having aircraft which have got the top technology on board. So that's why we operate the A350-1000 at the moment to most of our destination in the Americas, because it's the best aircraft you can get. And with all that package come all the technology elements, which are part of the building customer trust, transparency, and hygiene. So I think that's more the question. To be fair, whether it's an A380 or something else doesn't really matter.
And then, yeah, sorry. So we've got a couple of ladies and gentlemen on Facebook. We have any questions? Please send them to us. We can take maybe one more question. There's one more question. This is for you, Tony. The hotel business is already quite consolidated. You have a couple of like Marriott and a couple of large chains, the Hilton, the Marriott. Do you think can there be any more consolidation anymore, or is that what do you think is going to happen? You did allude to some consolidation and people with cash being able to be much richer, but do you think the Hilton and Marriott can combine, or is that already consolidated enough?
There's so many uncertainties. Again, we haven't seen this before, and my estimate is that it will happen more. A lot of small clusters will probably be eaten up, is the word, by larger players. That's been going on now for years, not only in the hotel industry, but in every other sector. And it will happen probably in record-breaking numbers in the next couple of years.
Okay, thank you. And it's a very similar question to Karan. Karan, even airports in the UK, a couple of airports have already announced they're going to shut down. So do you see that happening in Canada as well? Like, do we need a Hamilton airport? Do we need a London airport? Do we need any of these airports, or do you need one large airport? Do you see that happening?
Just to my knowledge, there's no airport going to shut down in Canada. So far, I've not read or heard anywhere.
But do you think it should happen? In your opinion, do you think?
So I don't think so.
Okay.
So Canada is such a big country as it is, they don't have enough airport.
Okay. So I think we have one last question here. Is it, and I don't know if this is true or not, but it seems like if there is a correlation between meat and this is probably true. We've got somebody on a colleague of mine is going back to India. They only served vegetarian food on the plane. Now, I don't know if that's true, but do you see a correlation between eating meat and the pandemic? I mean, it's kind of a off their question, but I don't. Eric, have you guys made any changes to your menu?
No, we have not. Not in terms of removing meat from the menu. We have not.
Okay.
Vijay,
Thank you very much, everybody.
Vijay.
This has been a great session, very informative. I would like to thank our technology partner, Tangentia. Also, I want to thank everybody on Facebook for joining in. And if you have any inquiries about today's webinar, and if you want to become a member of the ICCC or want to avail of the Small Business Assist program, please write to icc@icconline.org. Thank you very much, and I'll hand it over for some last words to my colleague AJ Tandon for some last words. Over to you, AJ.
Well, I just want to thank everyone once again for that. Your question on meat, each airline has on their routes different sections of food served, and I don't think that's going to change because the cultures of the world demand what has to be eaten, and that's a choice. So I think every airline would like to go there. And as far as the aircrafts are concerned, I mean, I would only say this is the best time to buy a A380. If you want to get one, airlines are releasing. If you have that much money, go ahead and get one. So with that note, I want to thank everyone for contributing. And in my personal belief, being spent so much time in the travel business, I personally believe as far as tourism is concerned, that will only pick up and will pick up only as local. So as local, if the tourism picks up, ultimately it relates to the international tourism. As far as the travel is concerned, the international airlines will actually show us how that is done. And that's why I'm a key supporter of major international flights that are coming into Canada. We thank everyone who's been contributing this. We will be having the next sessions of the travel in June, and hopefully we will have some more answers on COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 era. So join us, continue to be engaged with Indo-Canada Chamber of Commerce. This is one of the premier organizations for Canada, for any ethnic organization, and one of the longest serving. And we are all volunteers serving the community. So we look forward to the next sessions. Thank you very much and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you. Thanks everyone.